Hello and welcome to the Second Row podcast. My name is Pork O'Cally, aka the Second Row. We're here to talk about all things Irish and Connacht rugby. It's been a European weekend, and I am joined with Will Foley. How are you, Will?
I'm not too bad. How has your long weekend been? I've been enjoying myself away with some friends.
We had a nice weekend, very, very quiet. Storm Dave was a great excuse to just sit in and relight a fire and just keep the house warm and make sure this head cold I'm starting to get stays away as much as possible.
Very good, very good. Well, I was over visiting friends in the UK. I will give them a shout out to Megan and Sarah because I know Megan listens in the background at times, and this will freak her out because even though she's not a huge rugby fan, she does listen to support her friends, and now she'll be mentioned on the podcast.
I know I have family in America who listen to this all the time, and they like have literally zero interest in rugby. But always to get those supportive messages and listens is always very helpful and thankful.
Yes, agreed. Anyway, rugby news. I don't think there is anything in the way of rugby news this week, so we will
Nothing
probably
major.
get nothing major anyway, nothing to report on. So we'll probably get straight into the action.
Yes, and Friday night, weirdly, the four provinces lead in order. I'm
Yes.
not skipping Connacht forward for once. They were the Friday night kickoff, and they beat Sharks 29-12 in what was a very composed and impressive performance, I have to say. I just was the defense is just now this fundamental basic building block of everything good Connacht do, and I can't talk about it how good it is enough. It's just so good and so clinical and relatively disciplined as well. I don't think any defense, any team that defends as much as Connacht do will give away penalties. I think but they don't give away a lot, and that's the good thing.
I mean, I am looking at your notes here, and you have the word scrum about 7 to 8 times in the first section of your notes to indicate your general love of defense and scrummaging. But yeah, the word you used was composed. The word I would use is clinical. I think they were properly efficient both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
They defended incredibly hard. I think the count was like 4 penalties they coughed up in defense to Sharks. So like they gave them nothing in any place in that sense, right?
especially in defense, and was
Yeah.
really annoying. And like it's a bit akin to the Ospreys match last week. It's the offensive like mistakes or not getting to
Yeah.
the breakdowns what kind of gave Sharks those ins into the game. Because if you look at that first 20 minutes, Sharks had a lot of the ball. They went through phase after phase, went to the corner. The Connacht small defense stopped them twice. They played across 22 like 3 or 4 times, to the point where they're like, all right, we've now got a second penalty here or third penalty. I can't remember what it was. We're kicking the three. We can't come away from here without points. And later on the game in the second half, when the Sharks had to play into the wind, the defense was so good. The Sharks like, they were kicking the ball, but they weren't kicking the ball on their terms. They're like, okay, we just can't keep running into this wall. We have to get rid of it, and by that stage, the kind of aerial game got a lot better. So what were Sharks winning those balls in the first half, we're now becoming either 50-50s or Connacht wins. And that was just that helped that momentum shift as well, or helped them see out the game when Sharks did, had a fair amount of possession in this game, which is natural. But it was great to see that defensive kind of blueprint has now imprinted on so many players that it's just no matter who's playing, it just is now the default is really good defense and good reads.
Yeah, and I think it's a confidence in their defense, right? Like they now have enough evidence to back up how like that they can hold some of the best teams in the world out. Like we were talking about it just before we started recording, right? Like this is the South African front row, right? Eben Etzebeth in the second row. Like this isn't just a big South African front row. It is the big South African front row in that sense, right? So like it's no joke to hold this team at bay in defense the way Connacht did for 80 minutes, like not for 50 minutes or 60 minutes or even for a half. Like they did it for the full 80. They kept this team, that was running at them hard and pushing at them hard. Like, I thought Sharks played well, like were worth their lead at halftime. I felt as well, like, in terms of they used the win to their advantage well. They had the majority of the possession. I thought Connacht were clinical in the first half in the sense of like, they got into the 22 once or twice and scored from it, right? And anytime they got in range, they scored. So they kept themselves in a game that was against them in that first half, and sort of survived an onslaught, and then but in that sort of confident way of like, we will get our opportunity in the second half when the wind is behind us rather than against us, and like this is about surviving a little bit and like picking our opportunities when they come, not trying to force it too much. So, it spoke of a confident team to me in their game plan, in what they were prepped for and what was coming at them. It wasn't catching them by surprise.
And definitely, and like that quality of Etzebeth showed, like he was winning lineouts against like on our ball, and he forced us to have like to play it safe or to throw bad ball, so our lineout wasn't giving us the greatest platform in the world. The scrum, like literally, like you said, I went through every scrum because it was Billy Bowen and Sammy Lowe, like a 20 and 24-year-old versus two of the best props in the world, and Oxenche has been someone who should have been World Player of the Year possibly at one point.
Ridiculous player,
and this is the level of scrummager that they were against.
Yeah.
The first scrum was held out on Sharks ball. Brilliant. Second scrum, it was reset and then locked out on Sharks ball. The third scrum was a Sharks penalty. And you could tell that was almost game. That was technique. That was like the Connacht scrum not being quite prepped. Then Connacht ball were the rest of the scrums, and it was in and out, in and out, in and out, quick ball, quick ball, quick ball. Use it. You don't get involved in a scrum battle here. But many a team have gone up against the Sharks front row and tried quick ball and have been pushed back 20 meters. So the fact that you can get the ball in and out through channel one, clear feet, that is just a really well prepared and coached scrum. And we've talked about the iron scrum. I'm not gonna bash the iron scrum. Like, the Irish scrum issues are well known. Mm-hmm. And this to me proves it's technique, not personnel. It's a pure coaching issue at Irish level at this point. It has to be. Like it cannot be. When you can see 8 people dialed in that method to a point where they can launch attacks off, there's something that needs to translate internationally. And but
just maybe to challenge that for a moment, and we won't get too distracted with Ireland talk, right? But how much scrum coaching happens at international level at this? Like, surely
they have a dedicated scrum coach.
I know they do, but to me, I would have assumed that that's more about tactical approach, like as in like when to push, what the move is, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff, as opposed to like technique of scrummaging. I would have assumed still happens more at a provincial level.
But your technique adjusts to the opposition. That's what I would say. So
okay, because I was going to say, I think the point still stands, right? That it is technique, but is it technique in the other provinces that are the predominant suppliers of the pack to Ireland? So Leinster and Munster in particular, and Ulster to a certain degree, as opposed to Fogarty at a national level in that sense, right? Like,
I don't know. I say it's like 6 of one, half dozen the other. I think it's John Verdi might have a style of scrummaging that he likes, and that's the imprint for Ireland. And Collie Tucker has a style of scrummaging he likes, and that's Connacht's style. And that style has for the last 4 years made our Connacht one of the better scrummaging teams in the competition. They'll tend to get wheeled backwards against strong scrums. It's just the way of it is. But I think the Irish problem is almost partly perception, in that people now have a perception of players doing things a certain way, and they're getting refed on that. Whereas if they just took 2 years ago and we're just going to lock out every scrum, we're not going to try and win a penalty, we're just going to play off every scrum. That would literally solve it all. Just lock things down, don't push, make sure every single ref knows, oh no, we're not playing for penalties, we're not playing for anything. We are literally going to come in, get the ball out, and play on. We want our backs to get the ball. Make it a claim. I think that's what's missing in the Irish setup. Either one, that bit more technical coaching to be a bit better, because as we've seen, bums up and down. There's waves in that Irish scrum at times. And that's just not technically good enough whatsoever. And that's then put onto that then elements of us trying too hard, trying to get dominance. But at the end of the day, that can all be undone by having 2 really good scrummagers against you. And the fact that the Connacht front row literally held that out with, and don't get me wrong, you can see the effort that went into that. You could literally see how much they were locked into every single scrum physically. But to do it and still keep giving performances across the game, like David Heffernan was Connacht's top carrier, involved, and he was involved in that type of scrum battle. Just says it all about the work rate as well that this Connacht team kind of have. But first of all, my first player shout-outs had to be to those two, the props especially.
No problem from my side. I'm a big Sam Ello fan at this stage. Like I think he's been one of Connacht's best players across the season so far, and like one of the most consistent out there. So happy for him to get some plaudits.
Yeah, and like that defense, because Connacht, the Sharks off their launches were really, their 12 is always effectively an 8 who was fast,
Yeah.
And they're always able to get gain line. And even if Bundy was having a great defensive game, which he was, you are going to make gain line running at a 10,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like Josh Ioane goes off early, so you even then have the more inexperienced, possibly even lighter Sean Nachton, who takes over for the guts of that game then for him. It's really, 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 really good work defensively, and everyone kind of carries on. But how that whole fitting into roles, a sub like that in the first half would tend to disrupt the team as well, and that didn't happen.
I think Connacht of a couple of years ago, definitely, right? Like losing one of your starting players early on would have caused massive disruption to the game plan and to the approach. And again, to that point of confidence from my perspective of just oh no, it's starting to come undone. So like, as you're saying, kind of players are slotting in more and kind of everyone's on the same page. Like it looks like a team that is all bought in, 1 to 23 on the game plan and the approach, and like has high confidence in the coaching team and in each other in that sense.
Yeah.
Which like makes sense, right? They're 5 from 5 now across competitions.
6. That's
6 from 6. Now. Yeah. So like, it's
and the last time it happened was the 2015-16 season. I'm just kind of got to keep saying destiny now.
I mean, like, I know, like, you're kind of half joking there, but like, Connacht are a very tough team to beat now, particularly at home. I would say, like, they're a very, very tough team to beat when they're at full strength in terms of players and stuff like that. All players back, so like, I wouldn't, particularly in the Challenge Cup, I wouldn't put it past them to go very far in the competition.
It's 3 wins. It's 3 wins. It's another 3 wins that are needed. It was just a really impressive display at there was a defense at 14 minutes, another one at half time that really kind of they stood out.
Yeah.
Just when I was watching the first half live, I wasn't sure. It's one of those things I wasn't sure until the end. Sharks were playing cup rugby, going 3, 6, 9, and 12. I was kind of going, is this because of the Connacht defense, or is them just going, this is cup rugby, it's a knockout game, scoreboard pressure? And then you look at the end going, oh no, it was the Connacht defense. They didn't want to get into like mauls and.
Well, they couldn't, right? Was the short answer. Like they weren't getting purchase from it. They weren't finding holes. And like, I think it's probably a little bit of both, right? Which is that kind of, again, they're a very experienced team and an experienced setup. So like, you're not getting the purchase. You've gone left and right down the field and a penalty happens. Okay, we've gone left and right already and we're not getting through. Put it over, right? Again, this is cup rugby. We do not need a try right now. What we need is scoreboard. So let's just take the scoreboard and take the reset and go again. We've got plenty of time. So I would imagine it's a little bit of a mixture of two, but that is still I think the Connacht defense making them like, let's not risk it. Let's just take our 3. We only need to win this game. We don't need to put up a big score. If we win at 3-0, it counts exactly as much as if we win at 50-0. So, it's you're still forcing that decision in the head, I would say.
Which is really funny when you say that, because even the graphics for all the matches had bonus point after the 4th try. I'm like, no, it doesn't count.
There's no bonus point here.
Bonus point here. Like, I think the Challenge Cup graphics did more than the Champions Cup graphics.
The Champions Cup graphics, because we saw it in the Leinster match, which we'll get to later on. It didn't say bonus point. They did add up the tries at least.
But I think we've talked a lot about Connacht's defense, and Bundy kind of led that from 12. The pack were literally putting their body on the line. Dar Murray, once again, as there ever been a situation where players got 1 Irish cap and at a big level, at Six Nations cap. Like I know he was cap firing last summer, but those games didn't count. I don't think anyone can say those games counted for anything.
Yeah.
But he got capped this year. Was in a Six Nations camp. He's come back going, "Oh no, I'm a good rugby player, and I'm going to play like one."
I'm an international now. Basically, is what that is. Like it's the
But he's brought the gravitas of that with.
That's what I mean. Yeah. He's like, I'm walking around. He's like, oh no, I'm a test level player now. Like I'm an international test level player. So like that's how I now have to play and hold myself.
And in the second half, the attack did come to the fore a bit more. Connacht really trying to look for that outside edge because Sharks defend quite tight, and the times they were able to get to the edge on two, go across the pitch, find the edge, they were making yards for fun. The ball, like the first half try to Shea Mullins comes like don't get me wrong, that's still up the middle, Bundy offload, out, then a wide pass, a lot of work to do there, but still from going wide to wide, finding those channels, they made a lot of damage. One thing I'd say, I think the scoreline might have been a bit nicer towards Connacht if Sharks were so bloody good at just hold on to an ankle. Just those, their ability just really, that player just hold on and slow it down.
The sticky hand kind of element of just like managing to keep a grip was incredibly impressive. But no, look, I think Ford in particular, I thought stood out. Good old, Cathal Ford F-150, just like plowing through some players for the fun of it at different points in the game. And really like him and Devine, I thought in particular in attack, I thought Devine again, like we've talked about him in the last few weeks, like again, another player that's really like stepping up in the second half of this season and just like embracing again the way Connacht are playing and I think clearly loving the rugby they're playing at the minute and relishing in it. Like,
and he's been given the license to play fast, and I think when Connacht play fast and have quick ruck ball, they just as a team this week, last week, caused mayhem. They're winning penalties for fun there for 20-minute period on against the Sharks, breaking the gain line. It's good handling, everything just tightened up on a greasy night. And we've seen Connacht have bad night, like play well, but like that final pass not be accurate. That wasn't there. Like every pass was going to hand. Everything was just kind of working. And what was really good in that attack sense was when we got 5 meters out, we scored. Like last year, the year before, Connacht could be like 5 minutes at the 5 meter on the try line, just going left and right and left and right. This year, it's 3 phases. We 3 phases for the forwards. Okay, that's not working. Okay, forward, you're out there. We'll get it out to you. There's something else there.
And that's what I mean by the clinical piece of it, right? As well, is the it's the efficiency of scoring, right? Is what I like. Teams often get described as clinical. I think maybe too loosely. To me, what clinical means is like I do not take a lot of effort to score, right? I am efficient in my scoring, as in I get to 22 like that 3-5 phases, I have scored, and I'm back and we're restarting, and I'm not running 15-20 phases. I'm not one-up running it like for 5 minutes right at the 5 meter line just trying to crash it over. Like that can be clinical in a way as well if you're trying to slow a game down. You're maintaining structure. But I think in this type of a game, to me, it's more about just that efficiency of I'm not wasting energy, particularly when we're putting in such a heavy defensive energy, to be like not wasting it in attack. We're not going to sit here for like that 5-10 minutes. We're getting over the line quick and resetting and going again.
And I think the big thing in terms of clinicalness, and like I think is efficiency of energy, and that can be quite emotionally draining when you're not getting over. And being able to get over quickly and go, no, we scored, this works, like we're going again. You're not getting frustrated because things aren't working. But then the big side of that is taking the 3 to go 3 scores up, and that just kind of put the game. That's the point that the game, like the game, I think Connacht weren't in fear of losing. But it just made Sharks have to really go after the game if they wanted to win, and
it just puts that pressure on, right? Like like South Africa, one of the best teams in the world at scoreboard pressure, and we all know this. Like again, cup rugby is scoreboard pressure, right? You just put a team in a position where they have to chase a game, and then they're just more likely to make an error or force a pass or take a risk that they wouldn't have otherwise taken, and that gives you opportunity to get into the game, slow it down, whatever you need to do, and that the kicking for 3. To put it out to that 3-score game and just put them at arm's length, like with what about 13 minutes or so left on the clock.
It
There,
just
thereabouts.
killed the game.
It just
Off as a
killed the game. It's like,
competition.
okay, Connacht now can just slow this game down to not lose it, even if Sharks run in a try quickly here and convert it. It's like, okay, by the time this restarts, by the time Connacht let them get back into it and get them up there, they're not going to get a chance to get a third score even. It's just that gives you that comfort to be like, our defense can now sort of not rest, but can just like control the pace of the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah, you don't have to kind of be a full blitz for the next thing.
Yeah.
If you're containing, everything you're doing is containing.
Yeah.
You don't have to bite in. Everyone can just stay on their feet and focus on just making good decisions.
Yeah.
Instead of having to kind of run at everything on top of that.
Scramble constantly and like really fight for it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it did help then because that line was holding so well that Sharks then started trying to kick up the pitch, like I said earlier on, to gain that pressure. And, Jennings, Mullins were starting to win those aerial battles as much, on top of Gilbert as well. He was getting involved. Sean Nachton was dropping back into those pockets, just getting more balls. And then the ability and how they were kicking to clear, they stopped kicking straight up. A lot more bobbles, balls, down the tram lines started happening. I like that variation in kicking because it keeps the backfield guessing and it lets you create those opportunities where you win the turnovers. Like Mullins had 2 turnovers from just being the first person there, tackle up and on the ball again, and a good chase. You can hear it in the crowd winning those turnovers, that they're lifting moments,
Definitely. It injects energy in, particularly via the crowd, as you kind of say in that sense. Like, but it's yeah, I mean, look, there's not much to fault, I think, in Connacht's performance in this game, right? Like it was
really good.
It was really solid. Like but I equally would say, like, I don't think it's their best performance this season. In that sense, like, as in, I think it's the kind of plateau they have reached, right? Like, it's the high bar they are now working at in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
I would still say probably the Glasgow win in the kind of break week is their best performance, just because of the emotional lift from it, the effort involved in getting over that line and holding out a good Glasgow team. But it's still like just a really high, if they can maintain this to the end of the season, like, they've really good chance of getting silverware, at least in the Challenge Cup, if not also getting far in the URC if they can get into the top 8.
Yeah, because like next week is Montpellier away.
Yeah,
and that's gonna be a tough game, and I think we should have beat them in France earlier this season.
Yeah.
For my own liking. So, and the winner of that gets either Dragons or Zebra, and I am not going to fault either team.
No,
but
are beatable
because one of them will be at home, the other one will be in away. I can't remember which is which. I think it's Zebra will be away, but
yeah,
I'll know that in 2 seconds. It will be Zebra will be in Parma and Dragons will be in Sportsground.
Yeah,
but that so there's something to play for in that game next weekend. This type of incredibly competent performance in France, dialed up a notch in terms of not playing without the ball as much. I think that's even starting to frustrate Stuart Lancaster a smidge. It's like, we're winning games. We've won a game there with 4 tries.
Yeah.
I'd like to win the game of 4 tries and not be defending for at least 50%, 60% of the game type of thing. And I think that's a fair a fair wish, not even a criticism. It's a wish.
It's reasonable. Yeah, it's a reasonable ask. And I think, look, like, it's cliched, right, about the French and stuff like that, but Montpellier very much still in the hunt in top 14, right? They're sitting in 5th at the minute. They're just behind Bordeaux.
How much will they care?
How much will they care? Like, when they're in a fight for top 4 in France, right?
Yeah.
Like that, and like Montpellier, not a team that cares about Europe in France. Like, we have seen this many times over the years. They're at home. Like, okay, that might mean they'll care a little bit more, but again, I think they will underestimate a Connacht, even though Connacht beat them earlier in the year. I think the fact that Connacht are traveling, they will underestimate them, and certainly the fan base will underestimate them. They won't think much of Connacht coming in that sense. The French teams can often live and die by how much their fans are into it on the day.
Yeah, and from Connacht's point of view, going over there, is there a team manager kind of going, if they win, do I change a flight to go from France, or do we get them back to Ireland to fly then down to South Africa?
Yeah,
It's got the logistics of it all.
yeah,
I would have changed this week of how they're prepping and who they're bringing. Because like I know Sean Jansen's coming back into the picture from injury, like he's
yeah.
available for South Africa. That's like, so I'm not expecting for Montpellier, but his big bulldozing role has been picked up very well by Sir Langton,
Yeah,
and
yeah. He's doing a nice job there.
I really hope he gets kept on. He's out of contract at the end of the season. And
Fingers crossed.
Stuart Lancaster even said, like, we're hoping to get this sorted. I'm like, good. Everyone in Connacht wants this sorted. But a professional, competent win.
Yeah,
29-12, nice scoreline, nothing to complain about, really, like a small bit of kick chase and not defending as much. That is it. And
that's basically it. Yeah,
that's a very nice place to be in, with a competition to win ahead, with 3 games, knockout games ahead of you possibly, and it gives you a boost going back into URC in 2 weeks' time.
definitely. And like, again, cup rugby is so much about defense, right? It's so much about not like coughing up easy points and stuff like that as well, and just keeping a scoreboard ticking over in like that in a game away in France, right? It's just about like, don't give them easy ball, don't let them get a moment into the game, just keep them contained, and like a lot of the time it can be just about that as well.
It's very much, leagues are you have to win them, cups are you can't lose them.
Exactly. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, just play well enough to not lose. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that's, and particularly in these earlier rounds of like knockout games, right? Like before you get to a semi-final or something like that, where things get a little bit different. But yeah, definitely. So like, I think, look, I've another really solid performance from Connacht. Almost becoming a pattern at this one.
Yes,
one might say. So long may this continue, and hopefully we will be celebrating another win this coming weekend against Montpellier.
Here's hoping.
Can't dare to hope. Do we want to do the Irish bit now, or do we want to do it after the context of the Irish bit?
we'll do it after the context of the Irish bit. I think we'll go on to the Munster match and then go into it, because it's in all fairness, we could do it after the Leinster match if you wanted.
We'll do it in between. There's a little teaser for everybody there.
So we'll get on to Munster away to Exeter, a 31-21 point loss.
Yeah,
and I think the ball was being kicked off, and the commentator, I can't remember who's commentator, said these are 2 teams that are out of their league. I'm like, no, this is exactly where the results have left them. They're in their right league. You haven't been watching Munster for a while, to be honest. But Exeter were very much the better team here, like hands down. And it wasn't for like some huge interventions by Tyke Byrne, like 5 meters out. But even that slap back from one of the Boso's break, really smart. Everyone looking for a knock on. I love when I'm coaching when people look for knock on when a defender knocks the ball back to their own try line. Because no, it's literally backwards. He's facing his own try line. And he once again, this was a team that Tyke Byrne, Jack Crowley, and Craig Casey made things happen and made things not as bad as they could have been.
Yeah, and I think, again, like, this is probably, to me, this feels like what I hope is very much a low point for Munster. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with the nilling and stuff like that against the Sharks. Was it the Sharks? Yeah, Sharks. But I think, again, Europe mattering a lot to Munster, and some fans kind of quietly hopeful, I think, in Munster that this would give them a bit, like for going far maybe in the Challenge Cup and stuff like that might be something to kind of kickstart them out of their funk. But when I say that I think this is a sort of low point, what I mean is we've talked pretty much all season long about Tyke Byrne, Crowley and Casey being the driving force of this team. And I think we saw how far that can bring this team, where like they those 3 players, and I thought Crowley had like a really excellent game, particularly in the second half. I thought Byrne did absolutely everything he possibly could to like contain just like Exeter, that were on form as well and tactically had figured out what they needed to do. But like there is only so much 2 or 3 players can do against a team that is playing as well as Exeter played, and particularly in that first half.
And the thing is, Exeter in that first half gave Munster opportunities. Like
Yeah.
I was there watching, going, Munster had dog legs everywhere that they weren't executing, and that's not a Crowley thing. That's kind of Crowley would give to a pod, and the pod would make the wrong option, or take the wrong pass, or take
Oh,
it in,
look.
and things like that. And there's only so much one guy can do, like we said, and those small times they in that first half they'd earn penalties and they had a bit of an edge in them all. Like it looked like, oh, hold on a second, they could do something here, but then Exeter turned up and like Exeter got more of the ball and they were just torn open. They're able to get wide fast, and I said Sharks defended tight. Jesus, Munster gave an extra player out there. The fact that anytime Faye Roboso got the ball out there, it was damage limitation from Munster. And like the 4 tries in the first half.
Well, like Nankivell, even in the opening couple of minutes, had to do a try-saving tackle, like
in the
just
corner on the far
corner,
side of the pitch, on the other side of the pitch.
Like, yeah.
It was unbelievable. And the 4 Munster tries that they conceded, Exeter needed 1 ruck.
Yeah.
For all 4 tries. And the first one was off a line out, 1 ruck in the middle pitch. Faye Boso got the ball out wide, and it was passed inside. Like, he goes in, 2 intercepts, and the 4th was a turnover. The ball is out to him on the wing, and 6 Munster defenders. I will always give a bit more allowance to the first 2 people coming in, because they have the hardest job. Everyone else then knows he's stepping across,
Yeah.
And it was the next 4. I'm like, oh, like half a dozen Munster defenders just kind of tackling way too high against someone that powerful, just almost afraid of an offload that was never coming. It was really poor score to concede, because even though Munster played very bad, and they did play very badly, 21 points came from nowhere.
Well, look, yeah, like that, and like we've talked about intercepts before throughout the season, and like how they're like a lot of times, and we'll probably talk a little bit more in the Leinster game, where they're opportunistic, and they're not often like as a result of like poor defense or poor attack. They're just like a moment comes. That it felt a little bit different here to me, where it was like, no, this felt scouted a little bit more, where they're like, Munster have had so many handling errors and force in the last number of weeks, have been forcing passes so much.
Yeah.
That it's like, I think they went in with like, this team is going to force passes. There will be opportunities for intercepts, more so than normal. Keep your heads up and be ready for it. And like, it felt like maybe for the second one in particular, there was like 2 passes earlier, 3 passes earlier that like they could have also picked, and they were like, oh, no, okay, I want that's going to happen again. And when it happened the second time, it was taken. And it's just like, again, cup rugby and all that kind of stuff. Like 31-0, it was over at halftime, right? Like you're just not coming back from 31-0 down.
No.
Unless Exeter completely folded in on themselves in the second half and Munster played an absolute worldie. And to a certain degree they did, right? Like they came out really strong. Like that Munster fight definitely came out in that second half.
Exeter also went with 31 points up and ease up a lot,
Oh, totally.
Exeter didn't score in the second half, but also
didn't need to.
Didn't need to. Munster had 60% possession in this game.
Yeah.
But if you watch, so I would tell everyone to look at the extended highlights. There's like from in the first half is like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, like nice. Exeter got their scores kind of plotted throughout.
Yeah.
Whereas in the second half, it's like they score a try in 44 minutes and we skip to 64. Munster had all that ball for 20 minutes, in that time. Did nothing with it. Exeter just looked so comfortable in attack.
Yeah.
Simon Zebo in the first half, it did mean a lot in the second half, said Munster looked bored doing the right things. Because there are times where their attack, when they kept it tight and kept it smart, were just making yards, and then would get bored and try and pull something that wasn't on or throw a pass that wasn't there. And you add in some really poor execution on top of that. It just looks so sloppy at times. And Clayton McMillan, when he came in, was like his job, what he wanted to do was raise the floor of what Munster were doing. And have we found a new sub basement that we didn't know existed in Munster?
And this is the problem, like at the moment, right? Like we've talked about it for the last couple of weeks of like the thing that is crippling Munster is handling errors, forced passes, and just general poor decision making in those pods. Like just like picking the wrong option with ball in hand, in that sense of like where to go. And like so like any momentum their forwards are giving them, or any like foothold that the likes of Crowley or Byrne or Casey in terms of speed is giving them, is being completely undone
Yeah.
very quickly. And it's just like it's just pure momentum killers on a constant basis from that just like sloppy play of what is the basics ultimately. Like the decision making, maybe we can leave that bit aside, but like the handling errors and forced passes are just like, just do the basics extremely well
Yeah.
and you will get opportunity. Do not try and force the opportunity.
And like we can talk about some big picture stuff about Munster in the terms of our people. Is like that Prendergast goal and cast a bit of shadow. Is this very much where Richie Murphy was 18 months ago with Ulster, where McMillan needs that time to kind of really embed his ideas and his plan on these players?
Yeah,
And also we're having these moments on the pitch of like making bad options. So
definitely.
it's one of those things where Munster fans shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Clayton McMillan was a good find for them as a team.
Yeah,
I hope, one, he's given time,
yeah,
and two, that someone really gets him on the QT if he doesn't know this already. Your job is to make these players better. They will
yeah,
win games when they're better. You
yeah,
know, if you look at Connachts, Lancaster came in, the first 5 games were dire, but
yeah,
everyone's now has got to a standard where their handling's better, their execution's better, their decision making's better, because we they we're getting constantly getting an emotional bounce from the technical being right.
yeah,
Munster got an emotional bounce because they had a new coach, and
yeah.
then but never got the technical right. And that's
I,
and
yeah.
when you see like Jack Crowley literally having to like off a back base of a scrum, hand one person off, go over the corner himself, do a chip and try, like they're pure individual tries. That's not like
And moments of brilliance, right? And
yeah,
he can pull off those things. But like again, as we see in this game, those are things that win you a game if you are in the game in the first place. And you got to
yes,
be in the like, so that chip over try is the like thing that wins them in a tough game away against Exeter if they're at that stage 28-31 down. Right. Like you know what I mean? That but they have to get into that position through doing the basics well, just being technically excellent and staying in a game, not going 31-0 down at halftime. Like it's just you are giving your world class players no grace to then win you these games.
yeah,
Uh,
and
yeah.
and then like that point with Burn in the bin as well, because he was in the bin at that stage. Like the game was over when like, and
When
you
he
could
went into the
tell,
bin, it was
you could
over
see
halftime, but like it was
it
definitely
was,
over when he went to the bin.
that was the final nail in the coffin, and you could
Yeah,
really see when put his hand out, he knew straight away. He
yeah,
tried something, it didn't work, and he
yeah,
knew. And this game, like you kind of look back to that win against Leinster and you kind of go, that feels so long ago. I know so much has happened in my life in the meantime that it feels like it's been 3 years ago, but like it genuinely feels so long ago in terms of what you're seeing on the pitch and
But I
compared to
think to
then.
your I think to your Macmillan point, right? That's almost the curse of it, right? Like and like if you compare that kind of like Munster trajectory versus the Connacht trajectory with new coaches, I do think Connacht got an emotional boost with Lancaster as well. Like Lancaster is thought very highly of in Ireland because of what he did at
Yeah.
Leinster, and stuff like that. So like I don't doubt those players, and like some of them are ex-Leinster players, right? As well. Like I don't doubt some of them came in being like, oh, this is great. This is a guy who made Leinster one of the best looking teams in Europe and like one of the best teams in the world for a number of years. This can't be a bad thing in that sense, right? And I think Macmillan definitely did the same for Munster. But then winning early, like starting the season well, particularly with the game against Leinster, but even the kind of the couple of games around it, I think again people were like, "Oh, this worked almost immediately, fantastic."
Yes.
And I think that's the risk for him is that like if the whole season had been like it's not working and we're not there and like okay he needs time, it needs to bed in, like there's change happening, maybe Prendergast needed to go immediately and not hang on, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. um I would agree with you, like I wouldn't be at the moment been like Macmillan needs to go or anything like that, or starting to throw aspersions at him.
Definitely.
In that sense, it's way too soon for any of that. he, I think, needs time, needs a full preseason with his full set of players. Not with the with the Lions tour and all that sort of stuff being disruptive. I think mid-season next year is probably, if they're still playing like this, where you can start to be like, okay, something's not working here.
And
What's not working?
It's only happened once in one season, in the first season where coach has gone. That was in Connacht, and that was the season after Pat Lam, and Kieran Kane wasn't the guy, he didn't pass the vibes test that year. And from what I can tell, McMillan's passing the vibes test in around Munster anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not that type of thing. It's, I think, with the development of the URC into the competition it is now with South Africans, Munster and Leinster and Ulster can't just assume they're going to be in Europe every year. It's now, and you can't, because of that, you now have harder pools because you're not second, you're sixth, and this is the
this is the new reality.
This is new reality, and to go back to what the com said to they're out of their league. No, they're exactly where their results have left them. They're not out of their league. This is just the leagues have changed and they haven't, to a degree.
Yeah. No, completely. But look, I don't know if there's much more to say about them. I think unfortunately it's a worrying continuing trend. Like, I was looking it up earlier on. Munster have won 2 games in 2026. They have now lost 10 of 19 games this season, right? So they're their losing margin is up there in that sense. To me, there's a real risk of the rot spreading now in the URC for them in the final few games. One thing is they now can solely focus on that tournament, right? That might be good for them, right? In this kind of Manchester United sort of way of one competition, might not be the worst thing for them, where they can be like, okay, if we want any silverware this year, or if we want to make sure we're in the Champions Cup next year, this is now our sole focus. A week off to focus in and sort of a little bit seethe, a little bit just be angry at what has put them in this position, is no harm for Munster based on how they operate culturally, I think, right? In terms of they're a team that like to play angry.
But I actually don't think, I think from a different point of view, if this was the old system where this was quarterfinal straight into URC, they'd spiral. Whereas now they can take a week, regroup, not even do that whole Munster bit, but do it in a very much, all right, everyone take Monday, Tuesday off. Do not come in. We've parked that. Wednesday is the start of a 10-day session. Replan everything to focus on the Benetton match in the week after next. But I think that is the Munster match, kind of, as much as we can talk about it without just going, they were really, really bad over and over again for another 60 seconds.
Yeah. No, that's not that. And we will move on to the Irish bit. We alluded to it there. We alluded to it earlier on in terms of maybe a little bit of thing, and certainly a thing that hurt Munster and was baffling in the Leinster match was interceptions. So interception is the word I said, given Irish teams had 5 total interceptions, more interceptions than provinces this weekend. What is the Irish for interception?
So there's no Irish word for interception. There's no direct translated word. Because sure, why would that be? When you said that to me, this is the word, and I know you went on to folklore and you went, it's skubba, which is snatch, which is quite literally the word for snatch. TG Carr commentators like to use the word gadiocht, which is stealing, which I think it's robbery. It's robbery off the ball, which I think, which one suits what the intention of the word is better. I think gadiocht is it's a bit more, it feels like the better word for it, Gadiocht the Lero's na moon and their shaft and Fuiho. The Munster ball was stolen twice on the weekend. Or was it Skippo and Lero's Aaron Kligamoon Fuiho, or the ball was snatched off them twice, which sounds kind of better. I prefer the Gadiocht version of it myself, but because whereas I think in the Leinster match it was definitely Skippo and Lero's, but in the Munster match it was Dino Gadiocht, so one was snatched and one was stolen, or
fair
in my point of view.
And I think in that wonderful way of Irish not having ever a single word to describe a thing, that it's so much more about the mood that you're trying to convey in that sense. I think I think it would be good, like on TG cards of that, to hear use of both terms like this at different points. To be like, I understand why they do it because they're just trying to like make it as standard for people to understand what's
Yes.
being said. But like sometimes it is a snatch. Sometimes it is like just like a yoink. I've just picked this, but I've picked this from your pocket, not in a robbery way, but just in a like it fell and I like picked it up and went, kind of
No,
thing.
definitely. And this weekend saw like a baffling amount of them.
Yes.
But no, that the Irish for interception, depending on how it happens, I think is either Skibbo or Gadiocht. And I think that's fair enough, to be
Yes.
perfectly honest. And before we get into the last two games, I will do the hit that subscribe button. Do listen to the podcast, or if you're eventually watching on YouTube, do hit subscribe, follow us, give us comments, give us praise or not praise, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But get involved in the podcast, ask questions, give us what you want in feedback, and we will get you involved in the podcast as well as much as possible.
I will say also reach out on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Blue Sky, any social media platforms. If you have a word of the week in terms of an Irish word you would like to understand that like stood out to you from the weekend, reach out to the second row and we will happily include it.
It can be technical or not. It doesn't really
Exactly.
matter.
It can be the mood or it can be technical. We will take all comers in that sense.
So we'll go to in timeline order: Ulster 28, Ospreys
Yes.
24. Do you think the Ospreys will have a thing about playing Irish teams and really weird forward passes? And I know I'm getting to the end game, but whoo,
Yeah,
what
it's
once
unfortunate again.
once is one thing, twice in 2 weeks, you're like,
Yeah, it's that classic meme of like, or like, of if I had a penny for every time I got called back for a forward pass against an Irish team that cost me a game, I'd have 2 pennies, which is weird that it happened twice. But it's look, to get into the start of the game, and as it's weather, like we said it before in previous weeks, weather a big factor in this game, right?
Maldy. Did you see
Like
the
just
posts at one point during the second half? It was like, I was positive the posts in Ravenhill were going to be taken out. Sorry, the Affidea Stadium were going to be taken out of the ground and thrown into the stands. It was violently bad up there. It was the rain started to come down then towards the second half. It was just
yeah.
like a mouldy game.
Yeah,
But
Storm Day was having his way with the grounds, to say the least.
and like also did start well. That tap and go off the kick going dead when Ospreys had the wind with them. It was like it
Yeah.
was so smart going, we can't kick this ball. There's
No.
no, and off they went, got the penalty because that quick attack that we're used to from an Ulster got going, really gave them the try. I was like, okay, Ulster are back to their old self. All the internationals back. It is, off we go. But that hint of indiscipline crept
Yeah.
in, and
Yeah.
Ospreys grew into the game. I would say I think they were ahead at one point anyway, but like
They were. Yeah.
they grow into the game in one sense, but in the fact that Ulster kept giving them opportunities.
Yeah, fair play
know,
to Ospreys in that sense, right? Like they didn't give up the fight at any stage in this game. Like when I think it would have been easy to. I think they didn't go 14-0 down, but they go 12-0 down or 12-6 down or something like that. But it would have been easy for them to put the heads down and be like, okay, we're away. It's bad weather. This is going to be a tough day and all that sort of stuff. But and like we're not going to have the win in the second half. We're already losing this half. But they very much stayed in the fight the whole game. Like this of the Irish games, I think felt the most competitive in many ways, like
yeah,
most evenly matched. Connacht and Sharks notwithstanding, but like Connacht scoreline kind of kept them, particularly in the second half, at arm's reach. Um, this was a close game from that perspective, but to your point, in a way that like Ulster did not need to make this a close game. They could have been a bit more
yeah.
like just contained, a little bit more clean, and not coughed up as many penalties and given Ospreys opportunities into the game.
And it feels like they're caught between two stools because they're playing some really nice stuff. And
Yeah,
Stockdale's trying the second half when
lovely.
it
Yeah,
goes through three hands and he breaks through. Like that's
that's
really,
great.
really nice.
Really great.
But it's
Yeah.
almost like they're trying to manufacture those positions without earning them, or do those little through the hands pop passes without this knowing what's going on outside them. It's the decision making part of it, they clearly can execute. You know, like I wouldn't worry about their level of execution or skills in any way, shape, or form. But that bit of decision making to take the right option or when to force that pass is what's letting teams into it.
Mm.
It feels like Ulster are having a jittery period at the wrong time. You know, it's just and
Yeah.
and maybe another week with all the internationals back, you know, against La Rochelle. It's a big game next week. Maybe that's the kind of like focuses the mind, you know, type of thing where to a degree they're not respecting their opposition. And there could be an element of that. And then they're playing the game in front of them, but they're not respecting the opposition that they're facing. And that could be, I don't know, but it definitely feels like when the weather's a bit grimy, which now the weather's getting nicer, hopefully, not that you know, when the weather gets grimy and a team like Ospreys make crappier ruck and the game gets a bit gritty and the game doesn't go all their way, is there that kind of forcing a decision and putting themselves in pressure, so kind of just keeping it that bit simpler for an extra 2 or 3 phases? You know, there's something there that you'd have to not worry about, but kind of go, there's an amber warrant, there's an amber light on your head. Looking at Ulster with how they're making decisions.
Yeah, it feels a bit like a speed wobble, you know, kind of
Yeah,
thing, right? Like it has that kind of vibe to it of like they've kind of burst out and now they're in a bit of a wobble, and it's what we're waiting to see is can they regain balance or will they fall over, right? That's the last few weeks, and maybe it is the disruption of, you know, going from what last year having or 2 years ago having no players in the Six Nations squad to having seven, and that is a lot of disruption if you're not used to giving away your seven arguably best players and getting them back. I think I would be inclined to think, and yeah, again, another week back in, because I do think you are starting to see some of that benefit of internationals and stuff like that kick in as well, right? Where the likes of Nick Timoney had a great game. Him post match also talking about, you know, I'm an Irish international now, therefore I have to play like it. Like when I come
yeah.
back to the club, I also have to bring that back with me and be a leader and stand up and drive the team forward because that's now my role in the team. And like some of those players I think are still stepping into those roles. Like
Yes.
they're not in them fully and they're not used to them as much. Like obviously Henderson has been in that role for a long time and is very well used to it. McCluskey arguably is in that role, but is also now playing at a level that he has
Above
never
that
played at
again. Yeah, he's
before.
playing at
Again,
such a good level. And even in this game, there's
oh yeah,
the his passing, turnovers. Like he was,
yeah,
you know, and his passing is good. His pass, like his carrying's always been great. His passing's
yeah,
always been good. I think he's brought his passing onto another level this year. And he's one of those things. Anyone who said he's a great carrier and that's about it, like no, you're not seeing the full player when you say something
yeah.
like that.
I
But
mean,
his
it's
breakdown threat as well.
is it unreasonable to say come the World Cup it would be McCluskey Ford as the starting centres?
I don't. I'm telling you, if and 4 to 12, like very much.
Yeah,
He
but
played at 13.
he's played at 13 a few times, like, and he looks pretty good in it.
He
Like,
does. If it's McCluskey Ford at in the centers, I will be absolutely shocked. I think I'd need to sit down for a week after seeing that lineup.
I mean, that's a
Um,
pretty like if they maintain form, that's a pretty dangerous centre pairing.
oh, completely. Like, and there's nothing to say they couldn't keep that form up.
Yeah,
Ford has grown as a player under Lancaster. He was playing good last year, but he
yeah,
seems to have he's excuse me, he seems to have really stepped up his ability to
yeah,
play. And he's you'd say the form 13 in Ireland at the moment. And it's a position where no one's holding their hand up. Tom
no,
Farrell had that for
yeah,
up until the Six Nations, even up until the Christmas time anyway.
yeah.
I still think he's doing more than most.
Yeah, Jamie
But
Osborne's growing into it, obviously disrupted with going back to
and
15 with
and
Hugo
I
out.
think he's more of a 12 than a 13 anyway, and I think that
Yeah,
suits him a bit better.
yeah.
Um, and like Ringrose and Hume aren't really giving you those huge performances,
No, no,
and
not
that's
yeah.
kind of, and it's more from that point of view. It's not that Ford won't deserve it because he's not playing well. It's more the guys who would be more incumbent
Yes.
aren't saying anything to demand their presence either.
Calling it now, you know.
No, you like if you want to call it, that's fine by me. You know,
Ford and McCluskey. It's gonna happen. One of these days we're gonna see it.
but do you think I'll go back to the match? Murphy being injured, not being able to start, and coming on, and also not really playing territory well. Like that was quite odd to see with that wind. You know, just
Yeah.
letting Ospreys play far too much in the Ulster half. Like we have a wind that you're going back to your 5 meter line, but their kicks were always halfway, not 22, and that's as we saw last week in the Connacht match, when you're not getting your territory right in that wind, it puts you under so much pressure that you don't need to, which leads to the Jack Murphy yellow card and penalty try.
Yeah.
And suddenly Ospreys are in this game.
Yeah. Again, I think it's an interesting, it's an interesting one again of like possibly having a confidence that like we are going to win this game regardless. And I kind of go back to the the Leinster team of old under Lancaster, like when they were really at their zenith in terms of that sort of play, where it's like it didn't like Leinster could go like 18 points nil in the opening 20 minutes. You're like, they'll still win though. Like that's still going to happen because they're just going to do it. And and the players look like that. And I do think Ulster are thinking like that, but they're not playing like that. I think I know exactly. I think like Leinster were just like, oh, sorry, yes, we do actually have to play this rugby game. We will now play this rugby game. Ulster are not doing that yet, right? And I hope they get there where it is that kind of like there's a little. It feels a little bit like that kind of like, well, we're going to win this game. It's like, yeah, but you don't need to make it so hard on yourself. Like just like play it and win it outright. Do like what Exeter did to Munster, get your lead and then sit back. Don't sit back at the start and then fight to win the game at the end.
Like they should have been at least 2 scores up before the forward pass thing happened. They should have been having that much of a buffer. That
that's luck. Like at the end of the day, they won that game via luck to a certain degree.
Like. Yeah, and compared this one to last week's forward pass, which you were still questioning about, was this more or less a forward pass than last week's?
I think this was more a forward pass, right? I think this was more forward out of the hands than the last one. Like it wasn't as like like his hands, even from the wide angle, his hands look like they're pointed forward.
The tackle stop at his momentum really doesn't help as well.
It doesn't help him. Like again, we have definitely seen forward passes let go in that context, but they obviously were confident. Like that's it's a game altering score. So
I've seen more of those midfield forward passes called this weekend than I've seen all last year.
Yeah.
And I literally had Sky on the background all day. That, and I was just seeing those little pops were being called forward a lot more often than I've seen. So it might be something that coaches and refs are kind of given out about. But Ulster 28, Ospreys 24. They have La Rochelle next week. It's kind of the game you want, if that makes sense.
It's a big game. That's a big game next weekend
in Belfast. Big game.
Yeah.
Raj coming to town. Ulster fans don't need a reason to dislike Ronan O'Gara. Nope. So it will be an interesting to see what Ronan O'Gara brings to Belfast, not Dublin, Belfast.
Yeah.
Given his injury crisis he's facing at the moment.
I was going to say a week, like it is a La Rochelle that is ripe for taking in the sense of injuries. I wouldn't ever really fully underestimate La Rochelle in Europe, given their performance over the last number of years. Like they are always a serious threat. But they loom large in the Irish psyche because of what they've done to Leinster and because of Ronan O'Gara, which will bring an exciting atmosphere to Ulster. It'll feel prime time and like high stakes. And I do think Ulster have the weapons to beat them. Where La Rochelle are dangerous is La Rochelle are that kind of clinical dirty win team, right? You can blitz them, as Leinster know all too well, can blitz them for 20, 30 minutes, get up a big score, and they will claw and drag their way back into a game with every little scrap you give them. And Ulster at the moment are offering up a lot of scraps to teams.
That's it. And if they can, if Ulster can tidy up, that's a different story,
Exactly.
But we'll move on. I think
Yes.
Leinster,
To
Edinburgh.
the strangest game of the weekend by a country mile.
Leinster 49, Edinburgh 31.
My first note, what even was this game?
My first note was like Leinster looked a lot like Munster that first half. It's like, Jesus, just
what were they doing?
It was so loose, and so.
I just can't. I don't have words.
It's a match that made no sense. It's a half of rugby that made no sense, and the problem is
it's almost impossible to analyze this game.
It would never happen again, because it's such
a game.
Not. It's a game that could never happen again. Like, I don't think that game, the way that game ended up, that first 40 minutes happened, I don't think there's a set of circumstances that could lead to that again. Who throws 3 intercepts in one half? Who
Gibson Park, apparently.
But even Tyke Furlong throwing one, that's that whole, we go back to the whole decision-making thing that we're talking about. Leinster just taking really, really bad decisions for those little pops.
Brain dead at times, just utter, full-on brain dead stuff.
And it was so amazing to watch because Edinburgh did nothing for all of their points, effectively,
for literally all of their points. Well, Darcy Graham, to be fair,
Darcy Graham's try was very nice,
that was again moment of brilliance. But how he ended up with the ball to be in the position to do the moment of brilliance was also brain dead.
So Edinburgh did nothing for their 31 points, absolutely nothing.
For their lead, they were in the lead at one point in this game.
Yeah.
After 7 tries had been scored,
that's how maths happens. That's maths. Yes. But it was just it was such an odd game. I just couldn't get my head around it. Genuinely couldn't get my head around what was going on in that first half. The slopping of the, and the Leinster handling in general. I think everyone, as much as say Harry Byrne had one of his better games, I think everything stems from 9-10. Gibson Park throwing some really weird passes. That from Furlong, balls hitting the deck. Is it something that Ione has his best game when Leinster everyone else around him plays badly?
he likes to play loose, right? It's very evident. Thank God, to a certain degree, RG Simon was not available for this game.
We need more offloads. That's what we need.
What will fix this problem? More offloads from higher up and further out. I think it's so hard to analyze this game and come away with anything meaningful. This, similar to what we were talking about Ulster earlier on, this did feel like a game where Leinster just did not respect Edinburgh and what they could do at any point in it. And we're just we will win this game. Okay, we're letting you score points. We will just score more. Stop, just go away. Stop. Why are you continuing to play rugby, Edinburgh? You're not winning the game. Stop thinking you're going to win the game. That's what it felt like at times from Leinster. This is a training session to get us ready for next week. Why are you playing? Stop playing. Let us just win the game and be done with it.
And all it took was Leinster to tighten up, even 10%.
10%.
It wasn't a lot.
No, just one less bad pass, and this game is run away for Leinster. One. That's all it is.
And literally, it's mad to think that 8 of the tries of this game were scored in the first half.
Yeah.
And
there were 13 tries in this game.
And Leinster will have
responsible for at least 11
of them. It's a mad, I wonder if you have the fancy rugby. Do you get the player who throws the intercept? Do they get the assist point?
In this game, they should. Back to our Irish of the week. There was snatches and yoinks left, right, and centre. There definitely wasn't any planned robbery here from Edinburgh. It was just for some reason, the ball is here.
And the ball I think at one point, the ball just literally bounced in someone's hands. They're oh, hello. And off they went. It was mental. But Leinster's, in actual rugby terms, and when Leinster's defence Leinster's defence held out well. They really put Edinburgh to the sword, gave them really nothing in attack. So it's kind of weird to say they gave them nothing in attack, but they scored 31 points. I mean, in the sense of in general face play, Leinster's defence held out Edinburgh
in the normal course of a rugby game where they normally play rugby, not when wild madness is occurring on the pitch. But, I think when Edinburgh took the lead and Leinster then went, okay, we do actually need to play some phase play of rugby and like tighten this up just like 2% and actually win this game, which they then did and then won it.
Yeah, and that's all. It was a small bit of tightening up. I think Tommy O'Brien had a very good game on the wing. Like, get him in space is really good.
Yeah.
What impressed me about I'm going to say this very loose terms. What impressed me about the Leinster attack, which was when they weren't giving intercept passes or playing stupidly loose.
Yeah.
They were able to get into shape very quickly. You know, that first try comes off turnover and how quickly they swing into shape was impressive. Didn't happen enough, you know, and there's a looseness we've talked about how Leinster are playing, and it doesn't really seem to matter who's in the team. I'm hoping this is the teething week, even though I thought last week was the teething week. You know,
apparently not.
Of getting all the internationals back into camp, but there's a looseness to what Leinster do and a lack of focus across the match, which is really weird to say about some of these players. You know, like Doris felt quite invisible at times in this game. Like I can't remember something big he did. Jack Conan was decent, but in a game where things were this weird, having an edge forward wasn't the game for forwards on the wing, you know? And I know that's every team does this, but it just felt like one of those games where just tighten up a small bit. Let's get everyone in a bit more let's get a bit more compact, and that will lead to things. Osborne at 12 didn't have a great game, even though I think it's his better position. When he went back to fullback, he played a bit better. But the pack, Porter came out at halftime. I think that was injury related, but the scrum had issues as well. The line out had a bit of issues. Leinster won the aerial battle. You know, that's something. You know, it's just really weird. It's just such a weird game.
Very, very strange game. Like, again, right? Leinster scored 49 points. Like, most teams would bite your arm off to score like basically 50 points in a game.
Yeah.
Even if your opponent scores 31, again, 28 of which is your fault. And like very preventable. Well, at least 21 to 25 of it being like completely preventable. I mean, like, it's the loosest Leinster have been this year, right?
Yeah.
Like, so maybe hopefully that's them just getting all of the remaining looseness in them out, and we will see. I mean, we can't not see a more tightened up Leinster performance next week.
Bloody hell!
Because I don't know what looser would look like. In that sense,
score like, 60.
But like when you saw what like Toulouse and like Bordeaux did this weekend,
what Bordeaux did. Shouldn't be screened before 9 o'clock. Like that was, and what Bia Barry was doing to defenses.
Yeah. So could you imagine what Leinster would be in this loose against that Bordeaux team?
Oh, like they lose this game.
80-49.
Yeah.
Like just ridiculous stuff, like absolutely ridiculous stuff. So I don't know. This feels like a game that is impossible to like analyze to a certain degree, in the sense that like this is uncharacteristically, like it is characteristic of Leinster in terms of the looseness this season, but it's uncharacteristic in terms of like 3 interceptions and a half is just not a thing that should happen to a team of this standard, of any team of professional rugby really, but to the team of this standard. A team not under pressure, like Munster coughed up 2 interceptions, but they were under massive pressure, and that's why they coughed them up. Leinster were like not even forcing passes, just like doing brain dead things. So like it's so difficult to rate. I thought, again, what was interesting to me there was like the opening 8 minutes, 10 minutes, the 2 tries going in. That what it felt like here was Leinster score 14-0 up, and they go, right, game 1. Now we're just going to play for fun, and they didn't get out of that mindset till about the 50th minute, 60th minute, when they kind of, I think, probably looked up at the scoreboard and went, wait a second, Edinburgh are dangerously close / leading this game.
I think when Darcy Graham gets that try, it's like, oh, hold on a second, no. Van der Fleer, Clarkson, and Rico then
just
kill the game off.
Start to kill the game off and just like win it outright.
And what I think I'd say, which was good from a Leinster point of view, is Harry Byrne then makes all his kicks as well on top of that, you know?
Yeah, 7-7,
because like Ross Thompson misses 2 of his, and I don't think they were going to win this game. But if Edinburgh had 35 points in the bag, like how different do they react after Van der Vlier's try? Do they keep,
Yeah,
do they have something more to play for?
a little bit more to fight for and stuff. Yeah,
So
possibly.
it is a weird game. Individuals didn't play well. Systematically, it went out the window a small bit, but you could see in the last 20 in that first 10 what Leinster are trying to do.
Yeah,
And it's like it's oppressive in defense, and it's quick. They want to score fast. They don't want to go scoring two after over three phases. It's quick. They want quick scoring rugby.
I will say that I do think in that sense of that kind of 30 minutes, as you say, the kind of opening 10, last 20, I do think that's probably been the clearest picture of what this Leinster team is looking to do that we've seen this season. And even maybe arguably last season under Ninaber and Cullen. So like that is positive because this is the time of year that, like, again, Leinster fans for a long time have been like, we've been excellent in the lead up and then like have our bumps in the wrong part of the season. So hopefully this is a sign of like that sort of final maybe teething problems of like, okay guys, yes, play loose but not that loose. Never that loose. Like even when you're winning an attack, don't go that loose. You could do it against a team like Edinburgh. Even the Sale Sharks, like we shouldn't do that against. In my view, like I'm still
you're winning that match. Like I'm
still not worried about Sale Sharks in that way. But like you gotta be a little bit tighter, like just to not put yourself under pressure. Just like again 10-15% tighter. But yeah, I think on the positive end, seeing a little bit more of what this team could do if they can just clean up the discipline. Like the discipline wasn't the discipline in the traditional sense of rugby discipline wasn't the problem here in terms of like covering up penalties. The discipline of just playing rugby the way you're meant to play rugby, like a professional team, and not like, I don't know, an under 12s team, is the thing to do here. Like to be honest with you,
it was, so, and I think that's it. It was just so loose that it's hard to see what they're trying to do, what Leinster can take from it in those 50 minutes, apart from when we play our game and stick to it.
It is pretty devastating.
You're suffocating the defense. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
And then you're hitting them so fast that you're under the post before they realize what's going on.
It's such a quick strike, and like that is such a kind of like jab to the face of like shock, like, just like straight punch to the face kind of shock to the system of a team, as well as that suffocating defense. Like I can see that being very effective if you can string it together for 80 minutes, which Leinster have not yet done.
And that would be the Leinster worry, for next week and even the rest of the season. The 80-minute performance just hasn't been there.
No.
So we'll look to next weekend with that in mind, and Sale Sharks at home for Leinster next Saturday at 5:30. Prime
it's
time.
Also a better time, right? Like 5:30 on a Sunday of an Easter weekend is a terrible time for game. There was no atmosphere in that crowd. Like I know it's the Aviva and it's like undersold anyway for that game.
And they're not opening the top tier for next week either.
Yeah, and like they're right not to do it. They won't sell it out. Like the sooner we can get back to the RDS for these games, the better. Yeah. Like that will be a big factor. Like I haven't enjoyed these types of games in the Aviva because it's so that you feel the emptiness in them, and it just doesn't help the team and it doesn't help the crowd get into the game.
The specialness of the Aviva went very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think do you remember like last year, people were talking, maybe Leinster should move here the whole time. How quickly that's gone, because even look at the Sharks, Lions, all the Bulls, Stormers, they play in these big stadia. And when they're not full and Leinster show it doesn't work. And rugby at the moment in Ireland isn't 50,000 people showing up week in, week out to support Leinster.
But even the big sports in Ireland are not that, right? Like, you know what I mean? There's very few games of Gaelic football like that have 40,000 people at them every week. You know what I mean? It's a 10 to 20,000 per game, and like closer to the 20,000 for the big games and 10,000 for a regular game. That is kind of attending sport in Ireland at the moment, like in general.
And it's not getting any cheaper to go to, and so Leinster beating Sale. I'm going to go. I think Leinster are going to win that game again. I think they'll just have, if they can just not play that badly again, they should.
Yeah,
They
they should
should do
they
it.
should win it easy. They again have the ability to win it easy. Sale like all of the Premiership teams, a lot of times are porous in defence. Leinster should make good hay with that. They just need to like hold their own defensive line and not be silly with stuff. I think
Just a
they can win it. Yeah,
just a bit of patience, like
yeah,
I think that's all it needs.
yeah,
Like the Premiership teams, I think only one of them that wasn't playing an English team won over the weekend,
yeah,
and that was Northampton, so
yeah,
and it's one of those things where let's see how they travel. La
yeah.
Rochelle are traveling to Ulster. Interesting game. We've talked about it a bit already. Um,
I'm going to edge it to Ulster, but I like La
it's
Rochelle.
like
It's
it's
a tough
kind of
one to
like
call.
it's like me and Munster last week. I thought Munster would win. If Exeter win, I understood how that could happen. I
Yeah,
think Ulster will win. If La Rochelle win, I can understand how that's going to happen.
yeah.
And speaking of French games, Connacht are away to Montpellier Saturday at 12:30.
Yeah.
At least we have the extra day's rest from
Yes.
the Sharks game. That's something. I'm going to go with the 3 Irish wins again. I'm going to go for a full house in
I
club
think the
rugby this
confidence
weekend.
of Connacht will carry them through this game. I think the confidence they've built 6 from 6, the way they're playing, like the
Completely
ball into
different
us.
team to the one
Yeah,
that played Montpellier earlier on the year.
exactly. And I
And they
think
should have won.
And I think Montpellier. I don't think they care enough about this tournament. I think if it was the Champions Cup, maybe, but I don't think they care enough about the Challenge Cup in particular. They're in the hunt in the top 14. We'll know when the teams get announced a little bit here, like if they've dropped players and stuff like that and rested them for the week. Um, or they may play them to be like, okay, let's see if we're in this game. But I think Connacht come out strong in a first half and like be in a fight that Montpellier go, we don't want to be in this fight. Like, you know what I mean,
It's
for the second
how
half.
how how much can you keep it going? I think
Yeah.
is the one there for Connacht. And next weekend is the start of the Women's Six Nations.
Yeah.
We will follow the Irish team. We're not going to do like we did for the Men's Six Nations and kind of give all the matches a bit of time because there's too much rugby to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, it'll be a 4 hour podcast if we cover the
Full Women's
three
Six
games of the
Nations.
Six Nations
Yeah,
plus the 3 or 4 provinces
every
of a
week for the
weekend.
next month.
Yeah,
Um, Ireland are against England in Twickenham. Like they have like 70,000 tickets sold.
yeah,
England women are the show in town. Like you
yeah.
go to watch them, it's a great environment. Everything about that
Look,
that is brilliant. If Ireland can just pull a performance together, I think close
I
that gap. We're still closing that gap. I want to see that gap close a bit more.
look. You're up against the best team in the world, right? Like, no two ways about it. And like, best team in the world, like New Zealand maybe, and maybe France are the only two others in that conversation. And then
Canada on their day
on their day, and
yeah.
then there's a gulf, right? Like there's a big, you've got a big three, big four-ish kind of situation, and then a gulf of a gap at the
Like
moment.
this is a literal 2 tier Six Nations. It's
Yeah,
England and France, and who's closing the gap in third,
yeah.
and
Um,
Ireland need to keep closing that gap and keep on to that third
Agreed.
place.
I mean, look, if they could sneak a win, I don't see the only way they sneak a win in this game is by England massively underperforming
Yeah,
in it, like, and Ireland playing out of their skin, right? Like at the
because
moment, just in terms of that
yeah,
gap between the teams at the moment.
because I was down the Cork match last year between the
Yeah,
two, and Ireland did a lot to stop England
yeah,
playing in that first half, but didn't create a lot. And then when England got around, got in, had a chat, what we're doing now,
yeah.
and that's what brought them on. Like England's ability to play multiple styles of rugby is incredible, and Ireland will have to be at their very, very, very best to get a win in this game. Look, they have everyone back in contention. There's no real big injuries. It's a full Irish squad,
Yeah,
and this is the time when you want to get England. First
a
game, like
hundred
like
percent.
like France or in England in the men's Six Nations, you want them up first. You want
Yeah,
them. This is the game you want them for.
yeah,
And if we have performances across the pitch from say like Aaron King and Aoife Wafer especially, and a good control from whoever's named at 10, because that no one Ireland haven't really like
nail
sat on
that down.
someone
Yes,
nailed that
yeah,
down
yeah.
yet. That's we could really at least cause difficulties and put a performance together, get a losing bonus point, score 4 tries, like get something from the game is a bonus, not get hockeyed is what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like it's the performance is the thing that we're looking for here. Yeah, if they can make it a contest, I would say even for 60 minutes, like that will have been a huge thing, I think, for this Ireland team, because like there is just a big gap there, and it's not a reflection on Ireland, to be honest. It's a reflection on England and just how good this England team is.
It's more a reflection on RFU and like starting this way too late, like the genie's out of the bottle. And sorry, there was news. The PWR were looking for like interest for teams to join the league, and everyone's like, "Oh, will the Irish teams go?" Because no, the Irish teams will not be putting anyone into a league that they don't have control over, in any way, shape, or form. So unless the PWR like changes how they run and let the RFU be part of that, then the URC women is going to be where the 4 provinces play when they become pro teams in 3 years' time. Now, I'm still be shocked if we have 4 pro teams by 2029, but I am. They said it's going to happen. Let's see. Let's see. And I think that'll be the next big step really for this Irish system, because like the men's game, they need 4 pro teams churning out players. Even if they only select from 1, you need, or 2, they need 4 to kind of just be blooding talent and giving competition for places. And Ireland will grow, but they will start to plateau in terms of performances until that happens.
They can't. There's no way they can't. There's no way. Like all you're doing is just giving players to the England teams anyway in that scenario, and to the French teams anyway, and everyone will have to play abroad to be able to earn a living as a pro. So definitely. I think look, let's see how it goes next weekend for Ireland. It's also like, getting to play in kind of that 60,000-70,000 crowd will be huge for them as well. Hopefully we'll have decent sized crowds in the Aviva and stuff like that this year. They've got Scotland in Aviva, so
Scotland in Aviva is the final match to go into the sports ground for one of the games. They're actually bringing the women's team around the country this year. Great to see. And it's a good idea. It's a good idea. And the more of that happens, like my idea was always, once they fill up Cork, which are doing it all the time, they should just move to Ravenhill. And they fill up Ravenhill all the time, that's when you're kind of talking, are we going to Thomond? And then you fill up Thomond all the time. Or you get to a point where, right, no one's standing behind the goals in Thomond, let's just move to Aviva, we're selling out the 2 stands, It's that type of, you build it up, whereas constantly touring and doing one in the Aviva, I think, is also a good way of doing it as well. It's good to see. I'm looking forward to the tournament. It's definitely a tournament I see the women playing well in, especially when you see how well they're doing the Celtic Challenge against a lot of these same players. So I think that is us for this week. Thank you everyone for listening. We will be back next week. Remember, if you want to get involved, leave a comment, subscribe. So get in touch. Until next time, goodbye, and thank you all for listening.
Bye-bye.